Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I am super pumped to introduce to you my guest for today. He is a former ECW World TV Champion, WWE Champion, WWE Intercontinental Champion, WWE Hall of Famer. He is one of a kind, the whole effing show, Rob Van Dam. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Denise. Glad to be me. Be here. Well, both.
I was gonna say, well, like, dude, you're literally like the coolest guy out there. And so, yeah, I think we'd all definitely would want a little bit of that cool factor.
Hey, how could you not? I'd want to be me if I wasn't me.
Freaking awesome. All right, well, let's jump right in. First and foremost, I do want to go ahead and start off with AEW since we just saw you there and it was a big part of conversation. Really good time. So I want to start off by asking you there, how did everything come about in terms of getting this appearance for you on AEW?
They had this plan for quite a while, actually. It was like towards the beginning of the year that I started getting phone calls saying if I was interested and even available, which, it's pretty remarkable that so many months later, the first dates that were mentioned were the exact same dates that it fell upon. So that tells me a lot about how far ahead these guys think. But, just like with anything, it's not real until it happens. And so, that's how I took it.
Yeah, and when you found out that you were going to be wrestling Jack Perry, what was your reaction to that? Because, obviously he's still, making a name for himself in the business. And so for you to get an opportunity to, be part of this, but also get to wrestle Jack Perry, what was all that like?
It was really cool. There's everybody grew up watching RVD. I hear that all day, every day. So I'm very familiar with that. And a lot of wrestlers went out of their way to welcome me, tell me how happy they were or inspired by me, etc. But what was really cool about Jack Perry was, he really wanted this match, so he was a real fan, maybe of the whole hardcore extreme style or whatever, so it was really like an organic fit. And if it was just like thrown together, which a lot of matches are, which is, every match is a compromise of what two complete different people bring together. You make the stew, you both got your own ingredients, and sometimes it's good, and when you're RVD, it's always good. But with Jack being so extra excited about this particular matchup, that just made it like that much better. By the way, I met him when he was a little kid one time when we were at the Staples Center in LA, probably 2001, maybe 2002. When I was with WWE, I remember meeting his dad because he was a big star. 90210 was like, it was one of the top shows. I didn't personally watch it, but Louis Spicoli who's a friend of mine, was obsessed with it. So we always made fun of him, and that was a part of our regular conversations. So Luke had Jack with him, when he was just a little kid. So that was a long time ago. But I probably should have kicked him. I should have kicked him in the head back then, but I didn't think about it.
You're like, damn, had I been planning ahead, had I known a little bit about the future, taking this kid out right here, right now. But it is kind of like a mind trip, though, when you think about it, right? Like when you think, like, I met this kid when he was just a kid. And obviously, he's still a young guy, but it's like, and now you're out here, wrestling him. I feel like that's pretty cool. And it got me thinking right now that you mentioned that, because I was listening to your podcast, and one of the things that you were talking about that really kind of really got me was when you were talking about people kind of aging themselves and stopping to do things because they're aging themselves. And that kind of got like into my head where I'm thinking like, yeah, especially if you're an athlete, why would you think that way?
Society, status quo, lack of motivation or ambition, That's really what it is. You got no ambition if you're saying that you're old and when you're 30. You're conditioned to think that. Why? Because your parents had you when they were super young. They're going to be grandparents in their 40s, and everyone that you know is broken down. So in their early in their life. So those are the standards from your environment. Fortunately, that's not every environment. And if you're not a world traveler and you live in a shitty little town with the same people that you see every day, you might not want to run your mouth on social media as if you're an expert on life, because you're not. You have very little or no experience. You only know things that have been told to you. And guess what? Some of that is going to be BS. You know, we're all taught that and have to filter through it. Some people don't have the tools to filter through it, so they run with it. And there's examples of that all day. But I'll tell you, like, if people didn't tell me that they thought I was old, I would have, like, no idea, because I don't personally identify with it. I remember, like, when I was in my 20s, I would have thought 52 sounded old. But now that I'm 52, it's like, I don't, you know. And I said this on my podcast. I haven't reached an age yet where it would be an advantage for me to be younger. And maybe when that happens, then maybe I'll start feeling like, oh, you know, because I mean, everyone that I know, they say, oh, sucks getting older, doesn't it? And it's like, not for me, it doesn't. You know, like I feel great. I'm just smarter. I know more about my relationship with life, with the universe, with everything. And I like to share from my experience what I've learned. So that's why I do the podcast. And that's why I have Individuality on my YouTube page. And, you know, just the messages that I do get about the ways that I've helped people or just touched them at the right moment when they needed to hear this or that. It goes a long way with me. So that's really motivating to me, because I'm always happy to share my perspective or insight to people that want to hear it. I've always been that way. On the other side of that, some of the things I'm interested are not popular things to be interested in. You know, the whole drug culture is like, there's people in certain circles that are taught, if you use cannabis, you're a drug addict. And so automatically anything that comes out of the mouth of anybody that uses cannabis is completely discounted. Shut up, you're high. And really, when you have the insight and the knowledge of the world, those people just look really ridiculous and limited and stupid to you, but they don't know that, you know. Dead people don't know they're dead. It's the same with stupid people. And they're everywhere. But I don't know, like, when I start feeling more broken down, maybe I'll be able to relate to old. But right now I feel like I'm going to live to be 150. And I've always been beat up. You know what I mean? So I could just be like, wow, you know, my back's sore today. And someone else to be like, oh, it sucks getting old. And I'm like, well, I mean, I remember when I was 23 going to the chiropractor because of what, you know, getting slammed in Japan. And anyway, it just feels like I've got like a lot more experience, knowledge, and I haven't given up whatever it is, the will that people and the physical abilities, I guess, that a lot of people give up. So, you know, I don't know where the line is where you say, okay, this is old, this isn't old. But for sure, a lot of people have that bar way too young to enjoy life. And it's sad. You know, I don't even take it personally because, again, I have the insight. I'm the one that knows how ridiculous they sound to me, and that's just the way it is. But it's almost depressing, like when I think about just the status quo, the basic thinkers, and how they limit themselves and really make the world a shittier place.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. That's one of the things that I resonated with when you were talking about stuff like this, because I think you've been always pushing, or being very outspoken and not trying to let people dictate what direction your life is. And you've spoken a lot, and you also mentioned it in your Hall of Fame speech when you were talking about individuality. And that, to me, especially nowadays where it feels like we all have to be the same because of the pressures that social media puts on us, hearing you kind of just talk about individuality was like this reminder of, like, yeah, I can be myself. I don't gotta think about what everybody thinks about, or think the way that they think. And so when I was listening to your couple of episodes of your podcast, that was one of the big takeaways that I got from it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to take that away. That's something that I always stand for, and I hope that the legacy I leave behind has something to do with exactly that. I hope that people are more comfortable being themselves and not necessarily trying to fit in. Like I reached what should be an undeniable status of success just based on the fact that I followed the dreams I had since I was a kid, and like everything about my life. I mean, I don't know if everything, that might be exaggerating, but I mean, I went after it and I got it. You know what I mean? I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to have this cool life that I have. I wanted to have an awesome wife like I have, and have the adventurous life that we have. And, everything. I wanted to do martial arts movies as a kid. It just, by all those, it seems like even the most basic thinkers should have a hard time calling me unsuccessful. Yet, some of them will see it that way. And I've made a lot of unpopular choices along the way, which I knew were right for me. And they weren't right for everyone. They don't have to be right for everyone. But that's the thing, is people just don't understand if you follow your own path. And I didn't pay attention to so many things that normal people do. And I've talked about some of this. I'm not musically inclined. I don't subscribe spiritually to music the way that other people do. It's just a thing. It's not everything. I mean, it's everywhere. And anyway, I feel like people let the music drive them instead of the other way around, which that's fine. I'm just saying I don't do that. I don't pay attention to how to, dress fancy or sports cars or even sports. There's so many things that make me different, and I'm okay with that. So if you're not, because you want me to live by your standards, then you're limiting me to meeting your goals, and I'm not willing to do that.
I get it, man. And I like it because I think it inspires other people to, pursue what makes them different. And now I do want to go ahead, because you were mentioning the music right now, and I still have a couple more questions about AEW. Walk, Pantera, the moment it hit, the first time you came out, it's like, yes, Tony went and he got, whatever he had to do to get the song to play. Oh my God, that was so cool. What was your reaction when you found out you were actually going to get to come out to the song?
Oh, I was stoked. Just like you said, I was like, yes, that's gonna make such a big difference in the energy. Like that makes it like a whole different thing than like what would they have done? Made up some kind of music and just relied on the RVD graphics, for people to catch the moment. So I was actually told the day before that they tried and they weren't able to get it. So it was a surprise to me a little while before it was a surprise to everybody else. And very motivating, like I don't, a lot of people, I feel like music in general, just to relate my last comment to this, I feel like people it's like a Hallmark card. It's like, hey, they're telling me how I feel. And that's weird to me. You know what I mean? So they'll sing a song like, that's exactly how I feel about my last breakup. I love this song. And I mean, okay, I get it. You relate to it. But it's like that, like with every song has its own energy. And I pick up on energy. I'm very energy sensitive, I believe. And Walk does bring that energy because it reminds me of back in the day, when in ECW, when I was like really enjoying this steady uphill, momentous ascension through my career, through my stardom, and it was just the best time. And I knew everyone out there, they'd been chanting my name for the last 3 matches. You know, they're ready for this match, and I know I'm going to go out there and work my ass off, and I'm going to do my part. I'm only one guy on the whole show, but I'm the whole effing show. I'm going to do my part and make sure that everyone goes home happy, regardless of if they hated the rest of the show. That was my goal. That's what that song reminds me of, you know, having that much of just excitement and that agenda. So for me, that's really cool. And I think that's like that for a lot of people. You know, this song reminds me of this fishing trip or this fishing trip. I don't know why I pulled that out of my head, but anyway, but for me, you know, music is just like a thing. It's not like everything, you know, like people, I mean, you wake up to music, your phone rings, it's music. If you want to watch another form of entertainment like drama or action, it's music at the beginning of the TV or music during the commercials, music at the end. And it's like, you know, you want to work out, put your headset on, listen to music. I don't do that. And really, like, sometimes now I'll hear a song that I've heard for 20 years and I hear the words for the first time. I'm like, that's what they're saying. I never really listened to it. That happens all the time.
You're like, I have a whole new perspective on this song now, right?
I never paid attention before, but it's always been a part of my life because they play it so much every time I'm in the car. Or yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I gotta tell you, man, when you came out to Walk, I was like, hell yeah, I'm so freaking pumped. I felt like, you know, it's the kind of song that makes you want to get up and start doing stuff. And so, you know, in regards to this, you know, coming from a fan's perspective, I was like, damn, I want to see more of RVD in AEW. Now, I know everyone's probably been asking you, hey, are you going to come and do more? Are you going to come and do more? So I'm going to ask you the same thing. Is the opportunity there? Do you want to?
You know, did Tony and I talk about possibly doing something again? Yes, we did. Any specific results to report from that or any other related conversations? We'll just have to wait and see.
And here's my question too, because you know you've worked with so many companies, right? You've been everywhere. You've worked with so many different people. That comes, you know, different companies comes with different teams, different management, different people. For you, what was your experience like backstage at AEW? And was this also your first time meeting and connecting with Tony, like in person?
Yeah, on August 2nd, when I first came out and got into the ring, when Jungle Boy was on the mic, that day was the first time that I had met Tony in person. And everybody that I met was cool. You know, I was happy to see a lot of the boys that I knew, you know, a lot of guys from my times in WWE, like, you know, Big Show and Mark Henry and Goldust and Chris Jericho and Christian. And it was really cool to meet a lot of the new guys, you know, come up and introduce themselves to me, you know, and, you know, like Sammy Guevara was like went out of his way, just be like, oh, my man, hey, can we get a picture? You know, and it was like, you know, I'll always remember that, you know, like that felt like respect. What I was surprised at was how many of the crew guys that I knew, like camera guys, you know, lighting, just all the production dudes, and not just dudes, some dudettes, but I don't even know where I know some of them from. It's just like, wow, I've worked with that guy for years, you know, and it was like that. Everyone, even Bob that rents the ring out, you know, it's just being in the industry so long. And like you said, wrestling for so many different companies, I knew like so many of the stage hands as well as the talent. And that kind of surprised me, because sometimes you almost think about those positions in the industry being more replaceable. You know, you don't think of those guys like having a career holding that camera or that microphone or setting up, you know, taking the photos, whatever. But those are like career jobs, you know, and so like they're part of the big family too. So super cool to touch bases with like some of those guys. One of the photographers, Lee South, I don't think I've seen him since 2012 when I was in, but probably a lot of the guys though, but it was just like some of them I had to look at their face, and be like, dude, they'd have to tell me. And Jeff Jones was one of those guys, I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. And he's like, yeah, I'm Jeff Jones. And I was like, you are Jeff Jones. Cool. Now he's got the Papa Smurf mustache and beard going on, and he didn't have that when he was reffing in ECW back in the day. But I guess I've been around for a minute, and so that's part of it, and part of the good part of it. You already know people, you already feel connected. They already know how awesome I am.
I was going to say, because when it's almost like they've been around and they've worked in wrestling companies, you clearly understand and know that they are fans too. I think sometimes you forget because they're the ones, doing the crew stuff, right? Doing camera or whatever it is that they're doing that entails, all the crew work. You still think like, sometimes like, they're just focused on their craft, that you forget that, they're wrestling fans too. And I feel like it adds like some comfort knowing that all of these people have worked in wrestling at some point.
Yeah, but it's something that you might not think about. It's not just about them being fans like of the industry, but it's fans of working with you. Like, hey, you know what? Rob's always in a good mood. He always has positive energy. He's such a good guy to work with. They remember stuff like that. Like because certain people are the opposite. Certain guys aren't really cool to work with behind the scenes, and they might be rude to some of these people. And so I try to make the work environment better when I'm feeling good or whatever, and that comes back to me hearing it from all these people. The first interview I did with Renee, when I went back there, they were telling her some stuff about that I thought was like between me and Jack. And I just, when I got there to do the interview and they're talking and stuff, and I heard it, and I'm just like, why were you telling Renee about something that happened on the ring with me and Jack? And they just looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, oh, you just want her to have perspective of like what happened like right before this or whatever. And they said, yeah. And I was like, all right, if you say so. And they just all laughed, and Renee said, it's good to have you back, Rob.
Man, that's so freaking awesome. I really hope we do get to see more of you in AEW. I think it would be really freaking awesome. Before I switch gears, I do want to ask you as well, because you've seen a lot of companies come and go. And, with AEW now kind of starting to change the landscape of pro wrestling, how do you think that they've impacted pro wrestling as a whole? How have they changed or evolved the industry?
Well, they have changed it quite a bit, I think, by finding a home for a new style, for better or worse, where the new younger guys can wrestle this newer style, even if some of it is contradictory to the old school foundations. Whereas in WWE, you're going to have the agents, I think, more on top. There's still quite a bit. I mean, they're still changing it there, but I think that there's more free reign in AEW, whereas, the agents or coaches, as they call them in AEW, the producers, I guess they call them now. And anyway, you usually have old school wrestlers, that have wrestled their whole career that can like guide you, counsel you, watch over you, and say, hey, this is why this doesn't work or whatever. I think with AEW, it feels more like ECW, where they just threw the rule book out and said, quit holding us back, boom, this is us entertaining the way we want to. And I feel like they've embodied that more than like, say, like NXT, which is more like, the next generation of SmackDown and Raw kind of. It's so I think they've done that, and I think it's been at a good time in the business where it was needed, so it's been capitalized on in a good way. When they came up, they only had the same chance as anybody else, which people are always coming up. There's this new company with Major League Baseball money, health insurance for all the wrestlers, man. They want to sign, there's a lot of people that aren't able to do it. And now that Tony's been around a while and he's improving, and I don't know the business end of his company, but definitely, he's established. People love AEW, and that's never going to change. And he's part of a revolution, part of having like an extreme new product in a different way.
Exactly. I think that's been like the cool thing too. And I love how you kind of broke that all down, because I feel like, kind of like the perspective where you were coming from the agents and whatnot, that was something that I didn't really think about. So when you brought it up, I'm like, okay, that makes like a lot of sense. And just, the overall just impact that AEW is making has been pretty cool. Now, I do want to ask you, because you mentioned the correlation between AEW and ECW, and clearly, like, your history with ECW is, it's amazing, everything that you were able to do during that time period. And so I do want to take the time to ask you, when ECW did close down, what was your reaction to that, considering everything you had done, and what I'm assuming, clearly what the company must have meant to you?
Yeah, well, we saw it coming. It was no surprise. So it was a long, drawn out degradation into the swamp at the bottom of the empty swimming pool. It was just like a slope that went down, and we could see it, and there was lots of little hope spots along the way. Paul would keep us going. I got an important meeting Wednesday with Barry Diller from Fox. It could be yes, it could be maybe. We were just like, ooh, this is going to happen for us, because we believed in the product. And then that all those maybes and got used up, and we surpassed all the possible bumpers that could have slowed down our momentum into that nasty, scummy swamp at the bottom of the empty swimming pool. But I jumped off the ship, as it was sinking. It was sad. It was very sad. There was like nothing else like it. And I really thought that if enough people were exposed to it, I thought that enough people would catch on, even though I never thought that it would hit the majority, because the very nature and foundation of ECW is like a counterculture kind of movement, which is also how I feel. I feel like most of my fans would rather see me doing a Rolling Thunder than talk about cannabis prohibition. You know what I mean? But I have like my own passions and my own intelligent level that seeks people that can communicate at that level, rather than just the wrestling fans. But that's that even so, I thought if everybody got a chance, enough people would stick to it, and it would provide that car crash appeal where you just can't look away and you're stuck to watching it, because you don't even have to be a wrestling fan to be entertained, by just watching a few minutes of the show. Like, oh my God, they're setting fans on fire. Like, what is going on here? It couldn't have lasted forever, with that in mind. But it was something that we all loved, and I would have liked to have seen it have a longer life. And if it would have still been going today, maybe I wouldn't have ever left.
It's almost like the what ifs, right? Like, what ifs, like this would have happened or that would have happened, or the hope would have come to fruition, right? And I'm curious too, like, what was your initial impression of Paul Heyman, and throughout the years, how has your relationship with Paul, evolved?
Well, Paul was, Sabu. I had Sabu to warn me, and give me his feedback and impressions of Paul. I'm sure he told me like how to trust him or not trust him, what he's saying or whatever. But Sabu liked him, and that was important. And man, I just thought he was always good at pulling out strengths and hiding weaknesses. And I also learned he was willing to say whatever to get through the moment, even if later on, that wasn't, even if reality wasn't connected to it. You know what I mean? Like, I learned right away, if he promised me a check and then I said, hey, where's my check? He'd be like, oh, it's waiting for you at home when you get home. Like, it was like, I got used to that kind of thing. Like, you said you were going to hand it to me. What's the difference? You don't even get home till Tuesday, and I just learned I learned to appreciate and respect him for who he is. One thing that I probably never ever said, and this is, I love it when memories just pop up like this. But within that first year, it kind of seems like it was around the time when Kurt Angle came in, but I don't know. But I guess looking back, knowing the bigger picture, I think Paul was trying to test my courage or see if he could call me on any BS, because Sabu and I were both telling him that I'm a kickboxer, and telling him about how good we think I am, and maybe some of my accomplishments in that area and stuff. And he had who he said was a friend. I don't know the guy's name, but it wasn't Bob Roode, but he was just like, if I could, he was like, would you be able to take on Bob Roode? He's a professional, but and I said, what's he weigh? And he said 135. I'm like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't care how good he is. He's 135, I was like real cocky. And he started like talking like he was going to book that. I think the guy was like really small, but it was some pro kickboxer. And he was like, you would do that if I booked, that. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, I'll knock him out. And then eventually just quit talking about it. But I think he was just testing me to see if I would say like, well, I'm not that good, or I don't know. I mean, what's this guy's record, Paul? But I wasn't that guy.
So I think that definitely was a test. Like the way that you explained it, it seems to me like he was trying to see whether or not you were going to back out or not, right?
I wasn't.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Knock him out.
So I do want to go ahead and get into your time in WWE because, going in from like we were just talking about with ECW and then, leaving that, unfortunately, and then jumping ship and then going to WWE. What was your initial experience like with the company? And, how did it change throughout your time there?
And you're talking about it in 2001 when I went to WWE?
Yeah, your first time with the company, yes.
Well, I mean, it was a much bigger stage, way bigger show. It was apparent right away that I had joined the circus and was living on the road full time. And also it was apparent that people all around the world were watching this show in countries that I never thought that I would even ever be in. And that was kind of like mind blowing, first time I got to go to some of these countries, and I don't know, India and some third world countries, some nicer, but to see all the kids, doing the RVD and for the first time, to actually take that in and be like, wow, they know that. I remember when I was in Belgium, everyone was on the angle like so hard when I had the Money in the Bank briefcase, and I think I wrestled Cena. No, maybe I wrestled Matt Striker. I don't know. Could have been a couple different times, but it was like, whoa! If WWE hadn't brought me to Brussels in Belgium, I would have no idea that I'm a king there. It was just like being in an ECW arena in Philly, had that same feel. Dude, there's all these people way over here on the other side of the world that, only get to see us on TV. So they're so stoked when we're there in person. So, WWE is, as far as the job goes, the travel, the pumping you out there. It's a whole bigger machine than anybody can fathom when they just think about, being on TV once a week or whatever like that. But as far as all that goes, being on TV, there was a lot of politics that were hard to adjust to. I was very stubborn about even working with politics, and that I'm sure got in my way. I'm not sure I would change it. Just kind of how, it's me. But some things, of course, I would do different. If you go back in time and you wouldn't do anything different, then you haven't grown, But yeah, it was, I felt like I was appreciated. I felt like they loved me. And then I feel like I wasn't appreciated. They don't get me. And then I was appreciated. They loved me. And then I'm not appreciated. They don't get me. It was like a cycle of that the whole time I was there.
And, when you were there and all parts of your career, but specifically speaking with WWE, you were freaking over, man. Like you were over and people were rooting for you to get these, positions, to get these top spots. And, when you won the WWE championship against John Cena, all of that for you, just going back and knowing how popular you were and how badly the fans wanted it for you. Looking back at that, what does that mean to you?
Um, I always was cognizant of my connection with the fans, always. And so I always felt, when I say that I felt like they don't appreciate me, they don't get me, that just meant the office. Because when I went out there through the curtain, everyone's got an RVD sign, they're all screaming for me. But then when I go by the souvenir stand and nobody even bothered to bring RVD shirts to the arena because, I don't know, I'm an afterthought because they're focusing on having 8 Degeneration X shirts and 4 John Cena shirts. And maybe that's because they sell a lot of those shirts, but it specifically takes away from me, not only my brand growing, but literally you get paid by the shirts that you sell. So there was always stuff like that. And I always felt like I connected to the fans. And even when you don't see me on TV for the last several years, I'm always like in demand with certain fans, and the fans that see me, that see that I can still go and that I can still offer, whatever it is that they want from me. Those fans always have the impression that I could show up on Wednesday on AEW, or maybe I could show up on Monday Night Raw. And every once in a while, I prove them right because I do show up, But that's the value that I have with the fans, and in their mind, how much of an impression I've made on them, so that even if WWE was really spending the money on the huge plans of The Rock and Stone Cold, and for some people they could still say RVD was their favorite during those times, and I'm grateful for that, and I own that, and I love that connection. I get my flowers from the fans every single day, so that's cool. And by the way, look at right now, we just saw RVD. Wow, he can still go. He's a legend, former world champion, for sure. For sure, things are going to happen. Let's see what happens. There's one thing to be connected to the fans, and there's another thing to go through the political system and penetrate the minds of those with their backs turned. Let's put it that way. So I don't know. So we'll see.
I get it.
Very relevant. Like as hot as I've been the last several years. All-time hot point right now. Is it possible that somehow they don't see the value in booking RVD? Of course it's possible. The fans don't understand it, and I can't explain it, but I just know how the industry works. So I'm saying you gotta, just don't have expectations. You don't have to be worried about ever being overblown with surprise.
Man, I love it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the lightning round portion here. And this one's basically, I'm just going to ask you like 10 random questions, and you answer them however you please. So here we go. Question number 1. How many singlets do you think you have had throughout the years, and how many do you still have with you right now?
So my airbrush artist, Joe Holland, damn, I owe him a phone call. He said that he thinks he's done about 300 outfits. And I would guess that I have close to 200, maybe.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, I don't get rid of them anymore. For a while, I would part with them. My first thought, besides like maybe donating for auction or good cause, I also thought they're rotting in my closet. I can't wear them anymore once the elasticity ages or once the paint fades to a certain point. And so I figured, a fan could fans will frame it, hang it up, and it'd mean a lot more to them than it does me. So I got rid of a few like that, but then I got sentimental. And now, I don't want to get rid of anymore. And WWE wanted one of my WrestleMania outfits for their fan access thing. And I couldn't find a single one of them. I looked everywhere and I was like, I got rid of that one too. And everywhere that I looked, I couldn't find it. So
now you're like, I'm not going to get rid of them.
Wow, I must have got rid of like a lot more than I realized.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're awesome. Question number 2. When you were chosen to kiss Ted DiBiase's foot as a fan, how did you spend the $1,000?
Well, I think even if you adjust it for inflation, I think that figure is a little bit high. It was $100, and I used it towards buying a motorcycle. Yeah,
Oh,
it was
dang, that's pretty cool.
a Suzuki 250 Enduro. I think way too strong for me. I used to. Oh my god, I'm so glad. I'm lucky I survived anyway. I didn't even know how to ride. It was so heavy, and I would like jump like you go down in the gravel pits, you go up this hill. I would go down the hill and then like jump the ditch and fly so far. And I was just so careless and reckless. So that was a part of my childhood that I forget to talk about. But I actually had 3 motorcycles, I think. I had a Harley Davidson 125. Oh, yeah, and I had a Honda 360. So, yeah.
Nice. Well, then it was worth it. You used to put the money to good use. um, question Question number 3. Who is the most random person or unexpected person that you have ever smoked with?
Random person. I don't know, man. That's a tough one. What's a random person?
I would say like even maybe just like a random unsuspected celebrity that all of a sudden you're like, hey, we're hanging out, we're doing this.
How about people won't be surprised that I smoked with Matt Riddle, but if you don't know, that was way before he was a pro wrestler, right after his UFC, the days when he was in that series, The Ultimate Fighter. I met him at a marijuana advocating party at the Playboy Mansion and smoked with him in the grotto. That was kind of cool.
Damn, that is
cool. He had the little tiny plastic pipe that you like fold out the straw, and it's so small that you can't help but drink the water in. It's really nasty, but it was random and cool.
Yeah, that is cool. I think a lot of fans would be like, yep, I can see it. I can definitely see it happening. Question number 4 here. What was it like filming that skit with Kurt Angle where he tries to do all of these different sporting events and the Olympics and all of that? That was very funny.
That was so much fun. We had a lot of fun filming it. Yeah, the guy, I'm still, friends with the guy that directed that. And we've talked about other projects, here and there and stuff. But that was a lot of fun to work on, and I thought the result came out really good.
It was very fun. Question number 4: who were your favorite people to travel with on the road? And sorry, this was question number 5.
Okay, Booker T, Sabu, Katie Forbes is my number 1. And then I traveled with Booker, I traveled with Sabu, I traveled with Mike Awesome, I traveled with Sean Stasiak. And then that's about it for any length of time. I mean, anything else would have been just jumping in the car, I guess, with somebody and sharing a ride like once or twice. But those were the guys that were my steady riding partners.
I like that. Question number 6: if you were to wrestle again in WWE, who would you want to wrestle?
The main event at WrestleMania that pays the most.
Yeah.
Top guy. How about, is it Jake Paul? Is that the dude?
Oh, Logan Paul.
How about Logan Paul?
That would be crazy. That would be so crazy. Question number 7. Speaking of crazy, what's the craziest thing you have ever done outside of wrestling?
Oh my God. I don't know if that's for me to answer. I've done some craziest thing. I one time squirted ketchup out of a bottle without shaking well.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see.
Shake well first. I'm nutty. I'm going to ruin my reputation.
Ruin the reputation. Question number 8. How much time a day do you spend stretching?
Probably 30-ish, sometimes less, sometimes like an hour, depending on a number of factors.
All right. Question number 9. What are your favorite movies?
Casino is up there. And, these are all everything that comes to my mind right now is mafia related. Goodfellas, of course. Um, what's the one where he played the Cray brothers? Legend, great movie. Um, yeah, let's go with those.
Those are good ones.
Casino for sure. And I don't know. I'm really not good with favorites overall. So they're all thoughts, and they might change. It doesn't mean I'm lying. If I get asked what my favorite color is on another interview and I say something else. But
You're like, it evolves, it changes, happens to all of us. Last question, question number 10. What's on your bucket list still?
the autobiography.
Oh, nice.
Every once in a while, I probably like 4 or 5 times a year, I have people approach me, and say, hey, have you ever thought about doing and they're writers or they've written someone else's book or whatever. And yes, I've always thought of and planned on doing a book. And I have gone through different stages of development. I've met with book agents, I've considered ghostwriters versus writing it myself, because I actually do like to write, but will I get it done? And are there advantages to having a ghostwriter that publishers know and is independent publishing just as good nowadays? And anyway, it is something that if I don't do, then hopefully somebody will find my records and put them together with all the bull crap they had. But if I don't do it, it's just because I never got to it. But like I said, I'm gonna be around until I'm at least 150, and that is near the top of my to-do list. And it is something that I work on now, not as passionately as if it was at the top of my list, but I have a plethora of audio stories that nobody's even heard. So now that I go and tell the ones that people want to hear regurgitated or want to get insight on special moments, I might have enough material anyway. And even the RVDology episodes that I do on my YouTube page, at The Real RVD, those, like, I tell stories on there that like no one has ever heard, and there's stories that I think people would care about and stuff that I learned from them and values that I've gotten and applied to my life. So I really enjoy doing that, even though I know the fans would rather see me do a Rolling Thunder. But for me, this is important to me. And right now I'm still living the story, but that's definitely the answer to your question.
Now, I hope that you do get to that. And maybe, who knows? I think the right moment and however you decide, whatever direction and path you decide to do it, I think it'll happen whenever it's meant to be. But it would be really cool if you just started writing and kept going, once it starts coming out of you.
Sure. I've got like 4 screenplays that I've started like in the last 15 years, and some are, a little bit, some are half or almost finished. And, anybody could say that, just like you could say it'd be great if you just got up and exercised first before you ate. That's sure.
Like, saying it is one thing, doing it is a whole other thing.
Yeah, but like you said, when it's meant to be, it'll be organic. You can't really push anything ahead of its time. So I'm very much aware and appreciative of that law of the universe.
Awesome. Rob, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Extra time too at that. Seriously, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, talk to everybody here on the channel. Before we go, please tell the people where they can listen to your podcast, watch your YouTube channel, follow you, all of that good stuff.
So everywhere's The Real RVD on social media. And the podcast goes on there eventually, but first it's on Premier Access. Do you know? I don't know. It's on I think it's on Friday and Monday, but one of them, I think Friday is just the audio and then Monday's the video, if I understand right about that. But did Dominic send you any of that?
It's new. It's new. It's a new episode every Friday on Premiere.
And that, is it just audio on Premiere, or they get the whole thing?
I think you get the whole thing, yeah. But I'm going to put all of the links in the description box below, so anybody who wants to check that out can find you on any platform, any or all platforms.
Sweet. Okay. Appreciate it, Denise. Good talking to you.
Thank you so much. No, seriously, thank you to everybody watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you, everyone.
Whoa.